In the first 7 days of July, the British forces in Afghanistan have lost 7 people killed and over 50 wounded, some of them with very serious wounds. This is a reflection of the increased intensity of the operations by the British, which really are a smaller part of a much larger operation, mainly involving the best part of 4,000 members of the US Marine Corps. This is into the central part of Helmand province, and the aim essentially is to try and ensure a greater degree of peace and stability in the run-up to the presidential election, which is on the 20th of August. There are, however, some problems, and the problems really of two kinds. One is that the elections themselves are going to take place at a time when it looks like there is going to be inadequate voter registration and other aspects of the electoral process. In fact, the indications are that the level of professionalism will be lower even than in 2005, even though there are one or two very interesting candidates standing. The second issue is that one seems to find that repeatedly the British and the American forces are finding that Taliban paramilitaries are just melting away, and in fact many of the casualties are being actually down to roadside bombs rather than direct action. Now, related to this are a couple of other things. One is that there was an extraordinary incident at the start of this week when a fairly small American base right in eastern Afghanistan was attacked unexpectedly by a large Taliban group. So there's a degree of coordination going across the country. 2 Americans were killed, a number were injured, and in fact the base, which was quite small, was only prevented from being overrun by calling in airstrikes. The other issue relates to what's happening in Pakistan, and here the operations in the Swat Valley and elsewhere again have resulted in very few deaths or detentions of any kind of senior military leadership. It seems to be once again a question of Taliban and other groups just melting away, and there does not seem to be the ability of the Pakistani authorities to insert effective governance. So much so that you're finding that as you get many hundreds of thousands of people in refugee camps, some of the aid is being provided by the radical religious groups. So you have basically a basis for proselytization. There's one other factor to report which is really quite surprising, and that is that this very increase in American and British action in southern Afghanistan has coincided, surprisingly, with the visit of the Afghan Army's Chief of Staff to New Delhi to actually get further links between the Afghan National Army and the Indian Army. It's extraordinary timing, because one of the things that Pakistanis are hugely concerned about is the increased Indian influence in Afghanistan. And if there is anything going to make them less happy about cooperating with the United States, it will be visits such as this. It's difficult to know how it happened, why this wasn't better coordinated, but it's one of the issues which may cast something of a shadow over these attempts to get a degree of stabilisation in southern Afghanistan. It's certainly true that the next few weeks through to the 20th of August are going to be absolutely key to the longer term developments in the country.